All right, everyone, here is Body Systems Part 2. Now, your digestive system contributes to homeostasis by helping us absorb lots of calories and absorb nutrients, and it helps us digest our food and eliminate our waste. And here we have just a picture of your entire digestive tract. Now, digestion is both mechanical and it's chemical. Mechanical is just chewing, and that continues in the stomach when the food is churned up. And there's also chemical digestion, where enzymes are going to break down your sugars, like your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fat, into smaller molecules that can be absorbed. Now, here's a picture of your upper digestive tract. You have your pharynx that's going to receive food and also air, and then you also are able to swallow. Swallowing is a reflex action, and it's just performed automatically. We don't really think about it. And swallowing just helps push the food into the esophagus. Okay, and here in this picture we have a bolus of food. Okay, and basically once you chew, your food kind of is rolled up into a ball, and then we swallow it. Now we have a trachea that's responsible for getting air into our lungs, and when we swallow, the epiglottis will flap over the glottis and the trachea, and that just keeps food from going into our lungs. Now, your esophagus is a muscular tube that's usually collapsed except when we swallow, and peristalsis, are just these contractions that will push food on down towards the stomach. And then there's a sphincter muscle that will separate the esophagus from the stomach. And when the sphincter muscle relaxes, the food's going to go into the stomach. And if it relaxes too much while the stomach is digesting our food, that will cause heartburn or reflux. Now, here's just a diagram of the stomach. Your stomach is continuous with your esophagus and duodenum of your small intestine, and your stomach can hold about 4 liters. It can actually expand to about the size of 2 footballs, and basically it just churns it up. You've got a lot of gastric juice that's being released, pepsinogen, hydrochloric acid, that really starts breaking the food down. Food is not normally absorbed by the stomach, but alcohol and liquids are. Okay. And it will empty itself about every 2 to 6 hours. And then chyme, or it looks like chyme, basically that's just food that's been churned up by the stomach, and then it's going to go on into the intestine. Now, the small intestine is about 6 meters long. It's much bigger than your stomach or your esophagus, and it has 3 big parts of it. You have your duodenum or your duodenum. That's the first 25 meters of your small intestine, and it's going to receive bile from the liver, which is going to deal with your fat. Bile is real important for fat absorption. Your duodenum is also going to receive pancreatic juice from your pancreas. It's going to have enzymes to help digest your food further. It's also got bicarbonate to neutralize that acidic chyme, because your chyme has a lot of stomach acid that's still in it, and so the bicarbonate will help neutralize that. And then the jejunum and the ileum, that's just the rest of the small intestine, and the food is just going to pass on through there into the large intestine. Now, your small intestine has a lot of surface area just for absorption, and so you have blood capillaries that help with nutrient absorption. You have lacteals, which will help with fat. And then you have microvilli, which will also, those are those finger-like projections that will also help with the absorption too. Your large intestine is very important for absorbing things like water and salt, stuff like that. It's bigger in diameter, but it's much shorter in length. And it's going to store things like fiber that we can't really digest until it's ready for them to be eliminated. And now you've got your cecum and your colon and your rectum and then your anal canal there. That makes up your large intestine. You also have your appendix, which is no longer used. They think the appendix was used originally to store plant starch, but we don't use it anymore. Now, accessory organs of digestion, that's your pancreas, your liver, which is going to make bile, your gallbladder is going to store the bile, Remember, that's important for fat absorption. Your pancreas is going to release a lot of hormones, things like glucagon, which raise your blood sugar, insulin, which lowers your blood sugar. Okay. So these are things that help us digest food. Now, your cardiovascular system, those are basically bringing oxygen and nutrients throughout the body through our blood, also waste and carbon dioxide so that they can be eliminated, and then excess fluid that's picked up by your lymphatic system. And there are three types of blood vessels. You have your arteries, which will carry blood away from the heart. You have capillaries, which will have gas exchange in between the arteries and the veins, and then veins will carry deoxygenated blood towards the heart, and arteries carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. That's what your heart looks like. There's all the anatomy that goes with it. Okay, if you'll notice, you have your inferior vena cava and your superior vena cava, the big veins that are blue. They'll dump into your right atrium. And then you also have your aorta, which will carry oxygenated blood away from your heart. And then you have lots of veins here, like your coronary arteries, okay, so things like that, that will also supply blood to the heart itself. Now, the heart is four-chambered in a mammal, and we're mammals, and so we have two atria and two ventricles. Your atria are very thin-walled, and ventricles are much thicker because they actually have to pump blood in opposition to gravity. And then you have a septum that separates your right and left sides. And oxygen-rich blood for us does not mix with oxygen-poor. We have to have really good circulation because we have so many cells. And blood's got to travel through the lungs to go from the right side of the heart to the left side. And then your heart is really a double pump because it pumps blood through the lungs, and then it also pumps blood throughout the body. And the right ventricle sends oxygen-poor blood to the lungs, and the left ventricle sends oxygen-rich blood out into the body. And this is kind of the path that it goes through. You have oxygen-poor blood that will go through your right atrium and right ventricle, and then will circulate through your lungs. Okay, and the lungs are really represented on the far ends of the right and left of the screen where you have gas exchange. And then the oxygen-rich blood will go back to your heart. It will pump through the left atrium and then left ventricle and then out to the body. And please realize right and left are opposite on this screen because you have to consider that it's the patient's right and the patient's left. So it's flipped for us. Now, blood consists of several different things. We have plasma, which is the liquid portion of your blood. That's got plasma proteins. It's got water in it and salts. And plasma proteins are real important for help fighting diseases and things like that. And then we also have our formed elements. Those are our red blood cells, our white blood cells, and our platelets. Red blood cells, their main job is to transport oxygen. You have erythropoietin, which is a hormone produced by your kidneys, and basically that helps make more red blood cells. Okay. You have white blood cells that help fight all kinds of diseases like bacterial diseases, viruses, parasitic infections, allergic reactions. And then you also have platelets, which are very important for clotting the blood when you are bleeding outside of your body.